Jim. He's dead.
Hello and welcome to Improv Autopsy. I'm your host, Stephen Cadwell. This episode is part one of my interview with international improviser Nelson Velazquez. You may have encountered Nelson in a variety of places, both nationally and internationally, as a performer or instructor. He's a fixture at the Second City Chicago. He's CEO/mastermind of Improductions LLC, and he has the world's first and only improvised mariachi band, Los Improviachis. Nelson's love of improv is evident. If he didn't love it, he wouldn't be hustling so hard, for one thing. And if you have a chance to bring him to your theater, you should. I'll leave some links in the show notes. Until then, sit back and enjoy part one of Nelson Velazquez, Improv Autopsy. Thank you, Nelson Velazquez, for joining me on Improv Autopsy. We know some of the same people, but I don't think we've ever actually met.
No, we haven't. What's taking us so long?
I know, we're so close. We're closer than some of the people I'm in contact with more regularly. Like, they're all the way in Florida, and you're just, you're a few hours away, and we've never connected.
Yeah, I know. You gotta make this happen, dude. Gotta make it happen. I hope it's in the budget.
Yeah. Yes, we'll make sure. I appreciate you joining me, and I guess to start things off into the podcast proper, my first question would be, what was your first encounter with improv? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, actually, I'm actually a musician before I am an actor. So I started improvising in music back in like seventh, eighth grade. And then before that, I got my first tiny little like electric organ. And I learned how to play very simple songs because the numbers, the keys were numbered and the book was numbered. And I started hearing all these melodies. And then I started kind of improvising those because I didn't really know the songs all the way through. So if you ask me to this day, like, what are the words to Three Blind Mice? I could not tell you what they are. I couldn't tell you. But I know the melody very well. But like my first foray into what made me decide to like pursue it from a theatrical perspective, there's two stories. I'm going to give you the first one. The first story is I did a gig in Chicago. I was a part of a rock band. And somehow my band got picked up to do a festival in Chicago. And don't remember the name of the festival, but it was kind of a big deal festival. It wasn't like Lollapalooza or, Riot Fest, but it was like a pretty like named type festival. And I didn't have a band at that time. My band imploded about 6 to 7 months before then. And so I called up my old bass player and a rando drummer and said, "Hey, are you free this night?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Cool, just show up." And so they showed up, we set up, and they're like, "What are we going to play?" And I said, "Let's just play and we'll figure it out." So we improvised a 45-minute set. We played probably 7 to 8 songs, of which one got a and that got me into this idea of like being part of ensembles where everybody's improvising something. So that planted the seed, right, originally. The theatrical, like what pushed me over the edge to start taking classes was I went on a work trip and I was meeting everybody for the first time in my team. We were all remote. We were meeting in South Carolina, and I started telling a story at dinner. And I realized about 45 minutes later, people were laughing the whole time, and I felt really good about myself. And I realized right at that point that I was probably doing stand-up and not knowing it. So that really, really piqued my interest, and I rushed home the next day and got online. It was like, Comedy Chicago training in Google, and the first result that showed up was Second City. And I didn't read like what Second City was all about. All I saw was like alumni, like Bill Murray and Alan Alda, and like all these people. I was like, oh, they're funny, like they're all comics. Like, I'll sign up, no problem. So I call them up. I'm like, hey, I want to sign up for funny classes, and they're like, oh, so you want to take improv? And I'm like, sure, because I'm thinking the improv club. And I was like, sure. And so I show up to my first day, and they're like, hey, welcome to improv class. We're going to teach you how to act. And I was like, I'm here to be funny. And they're like, don't worry, the funny will come. And that was it. So that was back in 2004. And ever since then, that's how I got my original start with this.
Did you ever foray into stand-up then, or were you
Absolutely.
diverted at that moment? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got into it, and then I kind of quit for like 13, 14 years when I realized like it's kind of a young man sport. I'm a bit older than some of the folks when they started, and I was like, yeah, do I really want to be in an open mic at 2 a.m. when I signed up at 8 p.m. the day before? Like, that just doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So I kind of gave it up, and now I'm back kind of moonlighting in it because I also teach in the stand-up program now. So I kind of have to do it in order for me to kind of get some, gravitas and some like legit weight behind it. But yeah, like I'd say 98% of everything I do is improv.
And when you were doing the festival with the makeshift band, how many, you said 7 or 8 songs?
Yeah,
How many of were variations of Three Blind Mice?
all of them, every one of them. Sometimes we played it, it was just like, bro, we know 3 chords. What more do we need? Like, really?
Yeah, yeah. That's all songs are based on 3 chords, so you're good. How do you define or how do you feel about the relationship then between your stand up and improv? How do you view that?
Oh, the way I view stand up and improv coming together is this sense of like when I first started doing stand up, I was very young in my improv training. So when I came back to it so many years later, the thing I noticed the most about the improv, what really helped was the fact that it made me just a better performer and more comfortable being on stage. So I felt like I'd already done so many shows by that point that like going up on stage and not being so precious about my material really helped me as a comic. So I am more than happy to go up on stage with absolutely no material and see what happens. Like have a kernel of an idea and then just crowd work and just riff on stage in front of people and probably bomb and not worry so much about doing it right or doing it with judgment. I think that's where the improv side of me really helps. Vice versa, where the improv is influenced by the stand-up. I'm part of a improvised mariachi band called Los Improviachis. And a big part of that show is that it's audience interactive. We play short form games within a long form arc. They're all musical improv. And so what I learned from that was that in order for us to get engaged with the audience, we really had to be good and quick and fast with the jokes. And that really helped in the sense of having the background of stand-up comic, being able to kind of marry, how do you get an audience member who doesn't want to be involved? How do you get them to feel comfortable, have everyone around them kind of have fun and laugh, but also be supportive at the same time so that way you can use them when you go up on stage. So there's a good marriage between the two. I feel like I should be doing more stand-up, honestly, but Los Improviachis is a really good outlet for me to like from a stand-up perspective because every night is truly improvised. We have a set list, but it's literally we're calling it as things come along and how the audience responds back. And I think that's where the comic training really helps because we got to keep these people entertained while we're trying to figure out what the show looks like.
Yeah. So if you were kind of pulled into improv accidentally at Second City,
Yeah,
is that a fair way to put that?
that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Do you remember the first improv show that you saw that was actually improvised?
Ooh, yeah. So this is pre when I joined. So
Oh, okay.
I swear that I did not steal this from Mick Napier, author of fantastic books like Improvised, Seen from the Inside Out, and Long Form. If you read his long form book, I swear I didn't lift this from the pages. He and I had almost the same exact encounter, our first encounter with improv. It was almost word for word. Like it was weird reading it in a book. So I moved to Chicago back in '98 from San Antonio, Texas. And I had no idea about improv. I didn't know what it was. I was going to become a musician. I was going to do every single venue the Smashing Pumpkins had played. That was my goal when I moved to Chicago. Like I was a true musician. I'm going to play every place they played. Big, huge Smashing Pumpkins fan. I was dating, I was single. And when I was finding dates, I was going to the Metro on Clark a lot. And I kept walking by this Improv Olympic place, and I had no idea what it was, but I kept seeing Chris Farley's face plastered all over it, and Tim Meadows and a bunch of other people. And I was like, oh, it's a stand-up club. Cool, let me go there and play that and check that out, because I like stand-up, and one day I might become a comedian. Who knows? So I would take dates to IO thinking it was stand-up. So I would show up and it would be student herald nights, I'm guessing, right? I'm going on a, Thursday night or whatever. And this is when IO was, in Wrigleyville. So they had 2 levels and we would go to the bottom level. I didn't know there was a top level to it. So I just walked into whatever the bottom cabaret area was. And I would watch people do heralds and I'm like, what the F is this? Like, why are you quacking like a duck? Like, I don't understand. I don't want to hear about menopause. Like, what? Tell some jokes. And like, I'm walking out of there and I'm like, I don't know what that was. And I'm apologizing to my dates. And I did that twice, at least twice. thinking like, oh, well, maybe I just went on a bad night where the comics weren't funny, but no one ever explained what they were doing. And so I didn't really know. And that really turned me off for years to this day about long form heralds. To this day, I have a hard time watching heralds now because it kind of scarred me for life. It really did. Don't get me wrong, there are good heralds out there, but man, like you've got to overcome that trauma that I had as a civilian when I saw my first improv show. That's my first one. My first good improv show I saw was probably the main stage back in 2004 when I refused to pay for the first two acts, but would go see the third improv act at the main stage at Second City. And I saw the possibilities of what good improv looked like. And it looked more theatrical than it looked to be funny. And then I said, oh, that's something I feel I could probably do. And so that's when like it kind of, fired my engine and made me go and want to do more of this.
What review was that? Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
No.
There's no
They
reason
all
that
kind
you
of blend
should.
together to me after a while.
Yeah.
They all kind of look the same to me.
Do you remember any specific moments, either from that or from either of the heralds or any of the heralds that you saw? Does anything stick to your memory, it being especially one way or the other?
Yeah, the one thing, and it's one of the things that I've incorporated into the way I improvise and also the way I teach improv, is I saw a player at IO eventually at some point who did a scene where they were trying to pull out a pack of cigarettes and light up a smoke, but it was a 45-minute set. And they would meticulously, as they're improvising, grab the pack of smokes, pack it, tear off the cellophane, open up the top box, pull out the cigarette, put it in their mouth, close it, like very, very detailed information while they're improvising, while they're doing this. And then they would at some point be like, never find their lighter. So then they would very meticulously put the cigarette back into the box, close the box, find the cellophane they threw away, put that on, put that back on, and secure it, put it back in their pocket. And then they would repeat this through the 45-minute set. They would never smoke the cigarette. They would never get to smoke it. And it blew my mind of like that detail. Like I could care less about what funny stuff was going on. I could care less. I'm just watching this dude do it. Incredible. Just an incredible thing. And it is the foundation. It represents the foundation of like how I like to approach improvisation through movement and action and object work. Like that told me more information than any of the smart things that the people were saying and the witty things that people were saying on stage. And that just blew my mind. And that kind of set me off in the direction of pursuing it that way.
And when you say you've really incorporated that into your stuff, by that you mean that in every show you pull out a pack of cigarettes.
Absolutely.
And you pack it. Yeah.
There is no originality when it comes to improvisation.
Yeah.
It's all scripted and it's all stolen.
Yeah.
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 I'll admit it.
I think that in the dictionary, that's what it says by improv.
Yep.
Was that the set or was that a Herald team?
I'm guessing it was a Herald team, would be my guess.
Okay.
It was at IO, so that's my guess.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. And then you got connected at Second City, and that was the first formal class you took, and that was like level A?
Yeah, level A through E, before 1 through 5. Yeah, back in the day.
And do you remember anything from your journey through the classes? Does anything stick out in terms of moments where something clicked, or moments where you're like, what have I got myself into, or that was great, or that was terrible?
Yeah, I have a lot of those stories. So again, that time at Second City for me was very formative in the sense of like, I was coming at it, I think I was 27 when I first started, and I had already been in corporate America for a few years. So working in corporate America, which is very structured and very organized and things, and then coming to something that's much more free form and allows me to use my brain, it really allowed me to have this interesting balance, a critical eye, if you could say, about not only the art of what we do, but also kind of the business and the politics of what we do. Where am I going with this? So level A through E, it was absolutely learning all the fundamentals, right? It's yes and object work and movement and making eye contact and, all that great stuff, right? But it was also formative in the sense of like trying to understand the group dynamic and building ensembles and what were the politics of doing so. And then also at that point, because normally when you get beyond like the third class in a like series of classes, you kind of know that you're in it. Like you're not just here for fun anymore, right? It's not like I'm trying to get better at public speaking or I've got a presentation to give. Like those people have been weeded out level A, level B, or 1 or 2, right? Like by the time you're at 3, you're kind of with semi-serious people at that point, especially nowadays with what classes cost, right? And that's true everywhere we are, right? So these are dedicated people. So by level C, I was kind of like, as long as this is fun, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm getting an artistic charge from it. With that said, the thing that I started learning level A through E was started noticing is like, oh man, like people starting to want it more. It meaning I'm going to go to main stage or I'm going to be on Who's Line. Like you started seeing that kind of thing. And here I am in my late 20s with a massive ego, thinking I know everything there is to know about everything, and really going, well, yeah, I'm going to make it and I'm going to be there and I'm going to do stuff. And really kind of forming a lot of really, really strong opinions very early that were not that good for me in hindsight, right? Just discounting things like short form improv. I was like a long form guy, like love long form, and that's the best thing to do. And that's the way I'm going to make it on a second city stage or on a boat. That was the pinnacle at the time, getting on
Yeah.
a boat doing tours. That was like the thing. And what I kind of noticed A through E for me, my experience was like it was fun. It was always geared more towards fun than necessarily the craft at the time. And I started picking up on things of like tying more of the deeper side of what I do from a professional side of things, meaning my day job, started filling in some of the gaps that I was seeing from the theatrical side because I do IT architecture for a day job. And I started seeing parallels between what I did as a day job and what I was doing on stage or doing with my classes. But I never got that itch scratched of like, why are we doing these things? Like, why am I doing a zip zap zop? What does that really mean? Or why is it so important I don't ask questions? Or, like the whys kept coming up during my A through E. And I didn't understand it until I got into conservatory, and the fantastic Michael Gelman was my first teacher, and he destroyed me. My ego and everything destroyed me ultimately, made me realize just how little I knew about this art form. But it was such an eye-opening thing because I also recognized that I didn't learn the why behind some of the things that we were doing, and I held on to that. And I said, as a student, it's super important for me to understand why. I need to be taught why. We can't teach yes and. We have to teach yes because. That's what we got to teach. And that experience of A through E has gone with me from the very beginning to this day. I'm very much an advocate for our students. I want them to feel that they have gotten a more well-rounded approach to improvisation. Again, showing them the yes and, but also the yes because as much as possible so they can comprehend it at the levels that they're at. But also like having that kind of like, just because you're an A through E doesn't mean that you haven't had the concepts behind the why of what we're doing. And I want to make sure that we give it to them. So I hold on to like my experience as a student of like, I wish I had this, and this as a student. And I try to give those to my students wherever possible of like, cool, trying to scratch that itch I wanted when I was in those classes and really retaining what those things are. So that is a long-winded answer to your A. I don't know if I even answered it, to be honest with you, but like A through E was like formative in the sense of just like really figuring out what is my voice? Why am I doing this? And then trying to answer that for the next 20 years. Like, why am I doing this? And why is this important to me?
Do you think that you didn't have the why question answered when you were in those classes because the instructor didn't know the answer, or it was just outside of the scope of what they were trying to do? They didn't even think of bringing it up.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. More the latter than the former. I feel I had very adequate tutelage for sure. Like I think the teachers knew what they were doing. I think it was just more of that the culture of what improvisation was in the early 2000s, and
Yeah.
it was bred from the 90s and 80s and so forth. And I think there was the idea of like 1 through 5 or A through E at the time. Like that's like fun, yay! Learn the mechanics of the tools. Conservatory is where you learn that deeper understanding. But I think again, and maybe in a more traditional, I didn't go through an acting school. I didn't do theater in high school. I didn't do it in college. I was a musician. So I think for me, like I have to understand as a musician, like, okay, I'm playing an A in this key. why is that A good, right? And I think I had a deeper yearning than most people did, and I don't think the curriculum itself, the way it was taught and the way people were doing it at the time, I just don't feel like it was something they felt it was important as of yet.
Yeah, I think both that and your experience at IO speak to some of the culture of just taking things for granted, like taking for granted that the student will understand why, or taking for granted that the people that are in the room understand what a herald is and are going to be able to get on board. And I think that's dangerous. My experience, my undergrad is in theater, and I feel the same way you do about the why. I want to know the why, and I want to tell my students the why. And that stems from an experience I had with a director who had us doing some things, and I kept asking myself, what does this have to do with the play that we're doing? This seems just like an extraneous exercise. And at that moment, I vowed to never do that. And whenever I had a class, I'd say, hey, if you ever don't understand why we're doing something, please ask me. And if I can't explain it, I will never do that exercise again.
Wow, that's great.
Like, if I don't understand why we're doing it, then there's no reason to do it, and we won't do it again.
Right.
So please do challenge me and let me know, because I do think it's important, because the why is sometimes the hurdle we need to get over to understand the bigger picture. So
absolutely.
All right. When in A through E, 1 through 5, when did you first perform improv?
Oh, that was level C, so the third class.
Okay.
After the third class. Yeah, it went well. From what I remember. You know what's funny though? It's like the student showcases are so important to you because you haven't performed in that medium. And so you have like everybody you know at those shows. Like everyone's there. Like you spent all of your like future invitation capital on those student shows. And I still remember like inviting so many people and so many people showing up and doing an okay job. I did okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but it was okay. And like walking out of that theater going like, should I apologize to anybody? Like, well, I don't know. Wasn't I don't know. But yeah, it was level C was my first class, my first performance.
And that was part of a
Improv
student showcase?
Yeah, student showcase. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like those are some of the friendliest audiences you'll ever have, because everyone there is rooting for you. No one in that audience wants you to fail, versus if some schlub brings a date to your Herald team without knowing what's going on, they're not rooting for you. They're like, what the hell's going on? Terrible audience.
I was actively throwing bad suggestions. I was that guy.
Can we get a suggestion for go home?
Yeah, I love that scene in Ted where Marky Mark and Mark Wahlberg and Ted, I guess, go to an improv show. Have you seen that scene
No.
at all? Okay, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go watch it. Go watch it. It's funny if you've been there. You'll get it. So homework.
So I'm assuming then if the class showcases started at C, you had one for C, D, and E?
That's correct.
When did you start performing outside of the Second City sphere?
So around level D, I joined Salsation Theatre Company, which is Chicago's longest running Latinx sketch and improv group, over 25 years old. And I joined them around level D. So I did my first sketch show towards the end of level E, about 2 months into that group. I wrote my first sketches and not really having a clue as to what it would take for us to do it. I just kind of learned it by swimming in the deep end. But Salsation was the first like bona fide group that gave me my reps outside of a class structure.
And do they have a home space, a space that's their own, or is it catch as catch can?
No, 25 years we've been looking for a home space. 25. Long time. So no, Salsation's had residencies in different places.
Okay.
But never where we would be like, you go see us at IO whenever you wanted to.
Right.
It's always been, we've been transient.
It makes sense in Chicago. I mean, even some other well-established theaters that had spaces have been looking for new homes recently. So you're in good company. Have you been a part of any other improv groups that have been named? Like, I'm sort of a collector of like Herald team names or stupid improv group names, because I just love them regardless of how dumb they are. And usually they're dumb.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if you have any of those in your background.
I think they're all dumb. I don't know if you play this game. It's called Improv Team or Ska Band.
No, but I love it.
So if you come up with a name and it works for both, it's probably a good name. So if you're like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, yeah, that would make a good improv team name. Like that makes sense to me. I play that game. So every one of the teams that I've been a part of long term have had that kind of flavor to it. So
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, I would say Salsation's probably my greatest claim to fame, other than maybe Los Improviachis. Other team names. Recapitulation was a group that was born out of the musical improv program at Second City, and then we continue for 5 years after that doing musical improv. I'm currently in a group called Improñol, which is Spanish and English improv kind of put together in there. I was part of a group called Makeshift Up. The Tony Stanzas, another musical group. I was also in a few house teams here and there. Any Given Hyundai,
Yep.
that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's nothing that I'm like nothing that other than Salsation really. Salsation's the only one that's gotten a lot of accolades in the past or that people might know. But even to this day, like I mentioned Salsation to people and they've never heard of it. So I don't put too much stock in the team names anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot in my background too. They're like, I mean, not memorable in terms of a group, but I remember the names because they're either punny or they're funny. I like Improductions because it's one where my categories are something that's just stupid, something that's punny, or something that kind of tells you what you're about to see, like Improv Shakespeare. And I feel like Improdutions is both punny and tells you what you're about to see.
Yeah.
It's a great portmanteau types of improv names.
Yeah.
So well played, sir.
Thank you. It also gives us an out, which is great. The out is like we don't call ourselves mariachis. We're improviachis. So
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you guys don't play, traditional mariachi songs. Yeah, because sixth graders can play better than what we play. We're comedians. We're improvisers first. Mariachi second. So that's what I really like about improviachis as a name.
Yeah, I feel like a big part of comedy is managing expectations. So it's good to get that out front that, you're not advertising yourselves as a professional mariachi band and then surprising people.
Yeah, it's funny though, because when we pay homage to mariachi. We pay homage to it, but we're never going to claim ourselves to be mariachis. And when we do actual mariachi songs, we know 10 mariachi songs. People are really surprised that we spent time actually learning some of these songs, but majority of our set is always improvised. So every song is a mariachi song, and sometimes we take different genres as well. So we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do mariachi hip hop. I don't know what that is. We'll find out. It's that kind of thing. So again, having the name to be really cool, improv first, mariachi second is really helpful.
Yeah. So thinking back on your improv experience, what's the most shocking thing you've ever seen or done on stage?
Ooh, that I'm proud of. Okay.
I'm not putting any. You don't have to be proud of it.
There's a lot I'm not proud of on stage. Shocking. Okay, so there was I was a co-producer or assistant producer. I'm not sure what my title was for the Chicago Improv Festival for the last couple of years, I want to say, of the festival. And one of those festivals, we had a group that came out of Puerto Rico, and super cool. Whenever there's an international presence, I want to be a part of it as best I can. It was super fun. And they were performing at the time at a place called The Playground, which is now closed, but they're coming back soon. And they did this set where it was much more dramatic than people were used to. And I'm a producer. I'm watching, making sure that everything at the venue is good to go, the ticketing's good, that we're running on time, I'm doing this. And there was a scene where one of the players actually slapped the other player, male to female slap. And everyone gasps. There's this gasp, huge gasp. And so my brain goes into, okay, what am I supposed to do? Is this someone's getting hurt on stage? Is this something that is justified by the dramatic moment of the scene? Is this something, am I sensing someone's in trouble? And if it continues, I gotta stop this, but I'm not sure that if I rush into the scene and start changing things, right, stopping it, that I might be ruining these people's show. And it was a real interesting slow motion 5 minutes of me watching after the slap, watching the person who got hit react, watching them as an ensemble reacting to what just happened, and them continuing. The audience got lost, right? They lost the audience the second that happened. However, by the end of their set, standing ovations. And that taught me a lot. It was very shocking. I've never seen violence on stage, but it was that sense of man, improv has so many different facets and so much depth. And the fact that it shocked all of us was so eye-opening and made me think of oh, I thought I knew what improv was like, but that's improv here, Chicago. This is not applicable improv Puerto Rico or Mexico or Spain or these other places where they do improvisation. Like this is different animal. And it never really occurred to me until I saw that show. And the fact that they got standing ovations at the very end of it, like that sealed it for me. And I was just like, okay, that is what I would love to get someday. Not necessarily hit somebody, but get that standing ovation of like doing something that is so out there for the norm, and then still, because the improvisation was so good, people really do appreciate it. So I'm gonna go with that as my like most shocking. I wasn't directly involved in that item,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it really caught me off guard, and I learned a lot from that experience.
Now, were you too distracted by your production role, or did you see what led up to it?
Yeah, I saw what led up to it.
Oh, so could you tell in that moment, was it accidental? Was it an intentional choice that both actors were aware of and okay with?
I think, yeah, the latter, definitely the latter. I mean, these people have worked together for years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, it was one of those things of like the person who got slapped. I don't feel like she would have allowed that to happen in that group unless there was a reason. Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there's an agreement before they did it. And again, it was theatrically, it was a justified move.
yeah,
But still, like, I don't know of anyone that does that on stage on purpose, with that kind of build up and being able to earn the right. I know that doesn't sound right, but be able to justify that theatrically and dramatically. Like, I've never seen it. Never seen it on a stage in the US. Never
yeah.
seen it. Not to say it doesn't happen. I've just never seen it.
And their set was dramatic all the way through?
Pretty dramatic. Yeah. I mean, there were laughs in there, but it was
Right, right, right.
yeah, yeah, but it was more dramatic than I anticipated like it to be. It was much more I wouldn't even say it was melodramatic. Like it was grounded scene work,
Yeah.
realistic situations, real emotional reactions to each other. Like it was pretty deep. It was a pretty deep set.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I agree. That would have been a shocking thing to experience for sure. I was in a group in Chicago that was attempting to do not comedic improv. So they'd done some other things, but the one I did with them was an improvised psychological thriller was what we were
Hmm.
attempting to do. And I might not be able to do dramatic improv. I'm one that feels like if improv is a machine, comedy is what is coming out of the tailpipe because it's running.
Okay.
So it's just, and that's why I'm like, I'm not surprised they got laughs, because if you're being truthful and you're doing improv, some of it's going to be funny just because of the
Right.
honesty and because of we recognizing something truthful on stage, and it's going to strike us as funny. So I don't know how successful we were in doing a psychological thriller, but I love improv in general. So I would have loved to have seen that because it sounds fascinating on many, many levels. And I'm glad you didn't rush out there on stage, though. Also glad I think that was an instinct of yours is, oh my God.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it was scary, dude, and it was scary. It was really like time slowed down for that minute, and I'm like, man, balancing safety and artistry. Like what
yeah.
is that balance, and what am I reading from the audience? What am I reading from the actors, and what are we trying to do here? Like I'm going to pat myself on the back for not messing up their show, but it was my first instinct was to run out there and stop everything. That's
Yeah.
just the truth of it, right? But I learned a lot, man.
Yeah. Do you think that instinct came from your role as producer? Did it come from what you'd experienced up till that point, improv wise? What you'd experienced as a stand up with the interplay with the audience? Do you know where that motivation came from?
Probably the first two things you said. Like, I just think that, we have, especially in 2025, right? But this is 2018, I want to say, 2017, 2018. So we were having a lot of change in the theatrical world about respect and about fairness and equity. And I think that was very, very fresh in our minds at that time frame. So I think also, it's just also as a producer, like, like, I don't want people getting hurt when I'm watching. I'm like, that just
Yeah.
doesn't seem right to me. Like nowadays, go ahead and play with tags. I could care less. Mousetraps, not a problem. Fire, psh, go get burned. But back then, yeah, I think it was just like I felt a duty to making sure my actors and my people were safe under my watch. But also, I think it was just like I was living it just like everybody else. Of like so much change going on as to how we were doing theater and what the powers that be and the roles people were playing. Like all that was very much being figured out as we were going on, and for that to happen, it really I was very on the hair trigger to see things and make sure that like people felt safe, and I think that's where I wanted. But then the artist in me kind of held back and went like, let's give it a second. Like if this
Yeah.
guy's beating on someone, that's different. But it was so well crafted. I was like, there's artistry in what we do. And again, back to Michael Gelman, I give him a lot of credit for molding me in the sense of, there's a sense of, as an artist, it's difficult. It's difficult to balance what you want to do for your art and what you can do from a sociological perspective, right? Like, I will not tell you as a teacher what's funny and what's not. I will not tell you that. There are lines that people will make that say you can never talk about XYZ, or you can never do XYZ or ABC or whatever, right? Like, I don't tell you that as a teacher. I will tell you, know your audience, know your group, and know yourself, right?
Yeah.
And present a truth. What is the truth behind what it is that you're doing right now? When I'm a teacher at an institution like a Second City or Annoyance or wherever, or guesting somewhere, my duty is also to recognize, like, as much as I want to do the artistry, I need a place for students to be able to express themselves so that they feel safe while expressing themselves. So that takes paramount as well when we do it. But that moment was like a good thing of like my producer brain and my personal like Nelson brain was like, yo, that's wrong. Social norm take over. But then the artist in me was like, well, but that was justified and that was within the scene and they're acting and I got to remember that. And it was a good, like, again, I give myself credit in the sense of like not interrupting what they were doing, but at the same time being ready for it, and the
Yeah.
fact that after the stage everybody was love and the audience went nuts for it really, again, showed me like you got to be able to balance the two, but don't discount the artistry of what you're doing just because the social norms at the moment don't really have open arms or an open forum for you to be able to do it.
Yeah. So I imagine that it's also one of those things where it's different when that happens toward the beginning of the set, which is what it seems like it did, right?
Oh, no, this was about halfway through.
Okay. Versus being like one of the like they've got a minute and a half left and that happens. That's a different different story.
Yeah. And I think that hopefully they knew. Like, I'm sure they knew. Like, of like,
Yeah.
they had to earn that that audience. Just they lost them. Like, I still remember you could literally hear a pin drop. It was that kind of uncomfortableness that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it happened at the end of the set, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, especially for the next group going up. Thanks for warming up the audience.
How do we beat that? Okay, I've got a baseball bat in the car. Just wait.
So bearing in mind that feeling of when it happened, right? I'm equating this not entirely the same scenario, but I've been in scenes where someone will say something that's just, I can feel the audience kind of start to go. And I think I've probably ruined some scenes because it took me out of that and I've tried to correct to bring them back. I feel I'm in a better place with that now, but I feel like there was a time in my life where I would be more prone to do that. So if you can go back to the Nelson that was there in 2017, 2018, if that Nelson would have been on stage as part of that scene when that happened, it happened, everyone feels the temperature in the room drop, and that Nelson has the next line. What do you say?
Wow, that's a good question, man. I'd probably say something like, that hurt me to hurt you. And try to justify what that was. What was that moment? And how that changed my character. Because if you are physically with someone, I don't know if you have children, I have kids. I didn't grow up in the age of where we didn't correct our kids through hitting them, right? Like, I'm a product of that. So I don't do that with my kids. But even when I yell at them, it's literally like that icky feeling of I did something to you and now I need to explain
Yeah.
why that happened and how I feel about that situation at that moment. So I think having a little bit of justification at the end of that and then showing that that action affected my character and changed me in some way, shape, or form. I think that's what I would try to do
Yeah.
to try to win back the audience so they're not so creeped out, but at the same time, just stay true to the moment and having a reaction to what I just did and what they felt at that point. I think that's how I would try to
What if
handle it.
what if you weren't the person that did the slap? You're a background character, or you're a third person in the scene. You're off to the side, and that happens. What would your response be? Because I feel like for me, I would immediately try to distract from it, or try to do something. I'd be like, I just pooped my pants, or I'd just say something really stupid because I would panic. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like it would crash and burn because I jumped out of the plane.
yeah, because of just the tone of that entire piece, I don't think I could have done anything else. I think we'd have to live with it, or maybe not distract on the moment, but literally of like, okay, this thing happened. How does my character in the next scene or whatever, how is my character affected? Not necessarily by the action, but like, oh, Roberto has got a mean streak in him and he's coming after me and he's been angry, or like acknowledge the fact that it happened, but then shift it onto, well, what are my wants and needs and how am I affected by it? I don't think I could have done something comedic. I think it would have totally ruined that
Oh,
moment and that piece
absolutely.
for them.
Yeah.
I think I would just try to like oh, let's make it about me now. Like that happened. Yes, it did. Cool. How am I affected and what am I going to go through as a result of that action? I think that's the best thing I could have done.
Yeah.
I like the idea of I like that idea.
It turned into, what's that frog's name for Warner Brothers? Hello, my
Oh,
honey. Hello, my darling.
oh God, what
Just,
is his name?
I forget.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure people in the comments will just freak out. We should
Yeah.
know that.
You're overestimating how many people will be listening to this. I know there's initial in it. It's something not like Wile E. Coyote, but not that, obviously, because he's a coyote. Have you ever witnessed an interaction that would be similar, but with an audience member? Have you ever seen something where, okay, the oxygen left the room because someone in the room picked the wrong audience member to talk to, or this is an audience interaction that's gone awry?
Yeah, around the same time Los Improviachis was active. So around the same time, we did a show over at IO, and the makeup of Los Improviachis is not everybody's Latino or Latinx. So we have people from all walks of life because mariachi is truly global. It's a truly global phenomenon, right? Yes, it's mostly Mexican, and that's what everybody associates with it. But you have people in Japan doing mariachi. You have people in Chile doing mariachi. So there's a lot of mariachi around the world. So we never saw an issue with having people, as long as you had an appreciation for the art and you had appreciation for the culture, no problems. Like, come on through. And plus, we're not mariachis, so that kind of gave us again a little bit of some wiggle room. We did a show at IO where we were trying to get a suggestion for a scene that we do, and they yelled out cultural appropriation, and that rattled my non-Latinx people. That rattled them really hard, and it was one of those things of like, okay, like you're making this statement at this time, and I get it, but you're really effing up my show right here. And so I just ended up like the best part of Los Improviachis is that we can break the fourth wall. So I broke the fourth wall with in character and berated the living shit out of that person and was just like, yeah, you're messing up our show. You have an agenda. You know, if you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. And like it turned the tide with all the audience members because there was a gasp when he said it. And they were like, yeah, you're messing up our show. And I think, again, that stand up thing of like when you get a heckler, that I think that's what kind of kicked in when I did that. And eventually they stayed and we went on with our show and it was a good show. Like, no issue there. So that's probably the one I remember the most. It's closer to heckling necessarily than
Yeah. Yeah.
that seriousness, but like one lesson I learned from that one specifically was we don't do a good job in improv of teaching our students about heckling and how to handle that. And so like I wish I'd had better training as to how to handle. Like we're good at like, oh, here's how you accept good suggestions or ignore certain things, right? But what happens when someone stops your show? How do you deal with that? And that's where I pull in some of the stuff from the stand-up side of things, moving it in.
Yeah. I think about one of the chapters in Improv for Storytellers, I think, John Stone's book, that I really like is when he talks about suggestions, and he talks about how some of the suggestions are not intended to inspire you.
Mhm.
They're that person trying to get attention, they're trying to get the laugh.
Yep.
But I've always thought of that in terms of the comedic side. It's the dirty suggestion. It's, yelling out something super topical or yelling out something. Then that person gets a laugh, they can feel good about themselves. I've never considered like the derailing suggestion, the suggestion that's pointedly racist or where they're trying to, like you said, they have an agenda.
Mhm.
And you're right. I think it is heckling. And I think the other could be considered heckling on some level as well. It's like they're not helping you in that moment. This is
Mhm.
about them and whatever
Yeah.
they're doing. And you're right. I don't think I've taken a class where it's like, here are some ways to deal with these people that you will encounter. It is inevitable.
Right.
One of them will show up at one of your shows at some point if you keep doing this. And yeah, you're just kind of left to your own devices.
Yeah, I mean that's the one advantage that the stand-ups have over us, like when it comes to that part. Like they deal with it constantly, and so they get battle hardened much better and much faster than we do. It takes us a while to get there.
Yeah. And I guess this would depend on who shouted it out too, because again, I'm one of those people that's like, just smooth things over. Gotta just,
Keep it going.
yeah. Just try to smooth it over and pour oil in the waters, make sure everybody's happy. So I'd probably be like, okay, we'll take virtue signaling. Thank you for the suggestion, and just try to move on that way instead of I'm sure much better release of actually berating them and being like, you a-hole, what are
Right.
you complete
Yeah, and
ass.
to your point though, I mean, I think there's a time and a place, and I think that was the one where I was like, yeah, no, just no on this one. I'm not appeasing you on this one.
Yeah.
And that was just the one time. It's not like every time someone heckles me that or gives me a bad suggestion, I go off on them.
Right.
But like that was one of them. Oh yeah, that was just one of the ones where I remember where it's just like that was serious. Where we lost that audience because of somebody. We lost them. We
Yeah.
had to spend time regaining them back, and I think we did.
I don't know if you know this, Nelson, but you have a reputation online of being like, whatever suggestion you give that guy, he just will yell at you for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Banana! You're giving me fucking banana!
Yeah, I recognized a couple nights ago we had a show, and I recognized I had a bunch of students come and see me improvise because they're like, "You don't really know how to improvise." And I was like, "I don't," and so they came out to check out the show, and I realized how much I yell during classes. Like, and a lot of it's because I want to be energetic because I'm intense when I'm teaching, and they're like, "Yeah, it was kind of like class, but like more funny." I was like, I need to stop yelling at them, like not screaming at them, but it's just like a lot of hype and a lot of energy to bring it to them. But yeah, I'm hoping that my reputation precedes me online.
I love that he didn't leave. I presume.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Did you say he? Okay.
yeah,
I didn't want to misgender anybody. Yeah, I love that they stayed. Hopefully they got something out of it and it wasn't just out of spite.
yeah. I mean, and also honestly, like, I mean, it's been what 5 years maybe since that happened. It's never come up. It has never come up again. So like, like I'm grateful that it got handled, and I'm sure it'll come up at some point, but it really rattled two of my actors, and
Yeah.
it took time. It took like a year after that of like they were like, well, maybe we shouldn't be here, and I'm like, no, that's not what.
Yeah.
No. So I'm glad they stayed. I'm glad they stayed, and hopefully they learned something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they know just how angry I can get. Maybe.
Well, I mean, it had to feel good to have you standing up for him like that.
Yeah.
For sure. Because it is tantamount to yelling, "You're bad people up there on the stage."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, geez, thanks. Yeah. The opposite of the crowd that you brought to your Level C showcase that you can no longer invite to shows.
Absolutely. Those Chicago crowds are brutal. Brutal.
Has there ever been a scene or a show where you just weren't on the same page as your group?
Yeah, I got to be careful on this one because they're still active. I was a part of a group, musical improv group. I did a show with them at a pretty prestigious place in Chicago. It was not a traditional like Second City or Annoyance or one of those places, but it's still a prestigious location. And I had noticed that like I always felt like I was the odd man out, like the odd person out, not fully integrated into the social fabric of the cast. Like it was just kind of like, yeah, here's us, here's you, kind of thing. And we did a show where we were re-improvising history. There we go. I could say that much. And re-improvising some history. And I think I was the protagonist in this one. I was definitely the protagonist in it. And it was a very heady type show. And apparently they knew more about this character than I did. Like there were like some facts about the person we were improvising history for than I did. And they went in one direction with it. And I didn't catch the clues and I didn't get the references. And I went a completely different direction. And we were just like worlds apart. And by the end of that run, that kind of like, they made me let me know they were not happy with me after that show. Like not verbally, it was very cue oriented, but they let me know that like, hey, like we are not on the same page. Like we got to figure out how to fix this. We never did, to be honest with you. We never fixed it. It just kind of it was like a whatever moment at that point.
Yeah.
That's what it turned into. But it was one of those, again, a learning moment of number one, I'm not as good as I think I am. But number two, I can't improvise well with people I'm not on the same page with. And I thought,
Yeah.
I think that in order for you to make it in the higher levels of success, there's a bit of ego is not the right word. There's a bit of self, of me, that you have to be able to do and not depend so much on the others and trust that you have enough of me and enough connection with the others that you do a decent job. And I realize I'm not good. I can't play in groups where they don't necessarily value what I have to bring to the table. Not to say this group 100% felt that way. Just I didn't feel like it was supported enough, right? If I don't feel supported when I play,
Yeah.
I don't play well at all. I really don't. And so I, to this day, have yet to play with anybody else that I don't play in groups anymore where I just don't feel supported or valued, really. That was a hard lesson to learn, though. That really cut my ego
Yeah.
because it was a pretty cool gig at the time.
My follow-up for that is, when did you know there was trouble? But it sounds like you had a sense of it even before that show, that if you were feeling like the odd man out, that
Yeah.
you knew something was going on. How long after that did you remove yourself from the group?
I want to say maybe 2 months afterwards. It just wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
It was like I think that was a break it moment for me with them. I think that there was just like I after that show, it just was not a good show, and
Yeah.
I feel like it was like there's no redemption. There's no redemption path here for you. I was like, well, why am I going to continue doing this, dude? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm not wanted, why am I here?
It's got to be tough, because I imagine there's I feel like I need to prove to them that I'm worthy of this, but why do I care what they think?
Exactly.
Like that competing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's so difficult. We're all actors and we're all broken, like in some way, shape, or form, right? There's a reason why we
Yeah.
do all this. And I'd be lying if I said their validation didn't mean something to me. Yeah, I want their validation. But to your point, at the same time, it's like, why? Is my worth wrapped up in what they're going to say? And I don't think so anymore. At the time, though, that was hard. It was very hard to kind of
Yeah.
get through.
I often quote something that I heard Dave Rosowski say at a workshop once, which was, the only mistake you can make in improv is casting.
I like that.
I think the opposite of that is also true, which is the only mistake you can make as an improviser is joining the wrong group.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
not always on the shoulders of the people that are bringing people in, but you might find yourself in the incorrect group of people, and that's okay. You know, to extricate yourself from that, because if, like you say, if you're not feeling supported. For me, improv is all about trust. You've got to trust that you'll take care of your scene partners. You got to trust that your scene partners will take care of you.
Yeah.
And if that's not there, then it's hard to do anything if you're second guessing everything, or you're sweating because you think that the snickering on the other side of the curtain might be about you.
Right, exactly. I'm just curious for you as an actor, or have you been able to be in groups where you don't feel supported? Like, do you have a method to deal with that? Because I don't. I'd be interested in hearing your experience with that.
I'm sure I've been in those groups. Maybe it was actually when I was in Chicago, because Chicago for me was a lot different than sort of the primordial improv goo that I was in before moving to Chicago.
Hmm.
Because it was very cutthroat. It
Yeah.
was about moving to the next step, and so many little things that I got involved with were like that. So I guess my Herald team would be an example of that,
Yeah.
like where I kind of felt like the odd man out. And part of it was my fault because of the headspace I was in at the time. I could be in that position now, I think, a lot better and
Mm.
do a lot better improv than I did at the time. But because of where I was, it was really frustrating and it was exhausting, and
Hmm.
I wasn't doing my best improv. So I didn't have anything to deal with it. No, I dealt with
Hmm.
it poorly.
Okay. Yeah, I would be interested if I was to go back in time and be a part of that group again, how I would have handled it now, well, knowing what I know now, right? So that's a
Yeah.
good point. But I like that. I like the Dave Rosowski quote. I'm going to steal that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I've stolen a couple from him, so he's good to steal quotes from. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. In your estimation, when things are going awry on stage, but not in the way we were just talking about, where it's like, oh, geez, the world is against me, but just like a scene maybe starts to slip, what's the best way to right the ship?
So for me, it's literally like if you see the scene's going bad, you don't know who you are, what the scene's about, what's going on, like it's just pandemonium. Back to silence and movement. Silence and movement. So I'm a big purveyor of like, cool, show me where you're at, show me what's going on, don't speak. Take care of yourself, right? Show that you're comfortable and you're grounded, and it really opens you up. If you do that much, then it's going to force you to have to listen more, and the fact that you're listening will then allow you to then react emotionally, and then when you react emotionally, then we get some truth, and therefore the scene writes itself a lot more.
Yeah.
So that's my answer right there, hands down. Like, do more object work, shut up, do object work, ground yourself, give yourself the space to allow yourself to listen and react.
Yeah, I love that. So you don't feel that heaping more dialogue into an already chaotic scene is the way to go?
Well, it's worked so well for so many scenes. I decided to go a little avant-garde,
Yeah,
Or the opposite, see what happens.
Yeah. That's the other reputation you have, Nelson avant-garde. It's very close to...
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it for part 1 of my interview with Nelson Velazquez. Be sure and listen to part 2 when I subject Nelson to my Proustian questionnaire. Check out the podcast on Patreon for extra tidbits from interviews, PhoneProv, that's improv over the phone with Charles Fryerman, and other tidbits that are accessible to free subscribers as well as to those who throw a little green this way. Most importantly, thanks for listening to Improv Autopsy.